Hello, Pupsters. Today, I am lucky to be here with Liz Silberman, our Director of Operations. And Liz and I are here to discuss all the amazing things that she and her team do to keep your dogs well while staying with us at PUPS Pet Club. Liz has an amazing history in the business. You came to us experienced.
I did.
You had quite a bit of experience working in the training department at PetSmart.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about what you did before PUPS Pet Club. And by the way, we don't like saying the P word unless it's PUPS Pet Club. We don't like saying PetSmart or Petco, but we understand that you had great experience there.
Yeah.
And we want to hear all about it.
Yeah. So lots of pet industry experience before coming to PUPS. When I turned 16, pretty much the day I turned 16, I started working at PetSmart. I started as a cashier working in their pet care department. And then pretty immediately, I wanted to work in kind of that dog training and behavior realm. We had a really great dog trainer there, very experienced in behavior. She actually worked with dolphins before that.
Wow.
Yeah, it was really
Fun.
cool. And so she said, I think you would be a great trainer. I really want you to give this a try. So at 16, I said, okay, let's do it. And so I learned from someone so great, and I really learned the true basics of positive reinforcement and how to use that with dogs. And I always say I love that I got that start because I learned from someone with experience other than dogs. So I got a really just great overall insight as to actual behavior and how beings learn, not just dogs.
That's an incredible track and something that I hear replicated across the industry. Someone young and very motivated, like yourself, gets inspired by a professional who's in the business and sees someone who's really interested in learning this. Which the dolphin trainer, you have to love that part about her. Can't say no to a dolphin trainer, and then basically takes her under your wing.
Yeah.
And then so you came to us after working as the director of training for PetSmart regionally, right?
So I did that with PetSmart. I was an area trainer and then their regional trainer. And then I actually moved into pet food after that.
Okay.
So I worked with 2 different pet food companies and I helped with their brand ambassador program. So that got me really into a different part of the pet industry. Whereas before I was in behavior and training and that aspect of everything, then I went to much more of the retail side and learning about nutrition and how just the overall wellness of a dog really does affect not only, how they grow and things like that, but also their behavior and overall well-being.
That's right.
So very well-rounded in the pet industry.
I would definitely, and we appreciate that here. You've carried all that experience and knowledge and expertise forward with you into your current role as the VP of Ops here with us. But before you were VP of Ops, you were the Director of Training.
Yes.
So tell us a little bit about that, and your experience here working with the team, especially about our Academy program, which so few of our PUPS members know about. We actually have an in-house training program for our dog trainers that's completely developed by myself and Liz.
Yeah. So I always kind of joked, but it's not really a joke. Just as much as I loved training dogs, I loved training people how to train either their own dog or, training trainers.
And that's what training's all about a lot of the times, right?
That's really it. And I always would tell this to the Academy students, you could be the best dog trainer in the world yourself. You could be magic and get a dog to flip over sideways on the first try. But it doesn't matter as much if you can't help that pet parent work with their dog and do that same thing. It's great if you're a dog magician, but you're not living with that dog every single day.
I would call you a dog magician. I've seen what Zelda can do.
She's pretty cool.
She's pretty amazing. She's an awesome dog. Tell the audience about your dog a little bit.
So I have a 10-year-old Doberman Pinscher named Zelda. We rescued her.
You need to put some of your videos with her on YouTube, by the way.
Yes. We actually had a previous employee who put her on TikTok. Just some random videos of her doing the tricks I taught her.
I'm not a TikToker, so I would never see that. But
I'm
YouTube,
not either.
I would see.
I don't even have TikTok. And that's why it was so funny to me, because every time she would post a video, she would send me how viral it went.
Oh, wow.
Just because Zelda is so cute and her tricks are so cute. So that was always hilarious to me. She would show me the next day, that got 20,000 views. And I'm like, what? How did my dog get that?
I think it's so important for our pet parents to know that we are also pet parents and we care so much about our dogs, and we invest a lot of time and love and intention into their well-being. And then that definitely goes hand in hand with the way we're caring for their dogs. But I don't want to get too far ahead. Let's talk about what you did as the director of training.
Yes.
and how you helped teach some of our young and up and coming and inspiring trainers like you were back at PetSmart.
Yeah. So you and I both are certified behavior consultants.
Oh, yes, I remember that.
And what that means is we have extensive training, and we've learned a lot about actual dog behavior and how they learn and what makes them think.
And the science of it.
The science of it, exactly. And the actual psychology behind how dogs learn and interact with each other and socialize. And I call that out because I think a lot of people, or I know a lot of people, don't really understand credentialing and how important it is in the dog training industry to find someone who actually has given so much time and effort into honing in on that craft. And that's why we have our academy, and that's why it's really important for people like you and I to be credentialed, because it shows that we actually know what we're talking about, and we have these continuing education programs that we do. I explain to people, clients, whoever really wants to listen to me, that anyone could just wake up one day and say, I'm a dog trainer
You
now.
print a card and you're a dog trainer.
Exactly.
But that's not really how good dog trainers learn.
Exactly.
I mean, you don't just print a card and go out there and say, I'm a dog trainer, let me figure it out.
Yes. But
So tell people a little bit about how you structured this academy. What was it about? It was about book learning and the science, obviously, and the psychology of dog training, but it was also about what else?
So we really did model a lot of it on both the psychology, the socialization, the science, and then it's also very hands-on, because that's what's lacking in a lot of other dog training academies or programs. Is you can take all the quizzes, you can read all the books, but can you actually take what you learned and use that on a dog to change or modify their behavior? And it's such a gap in so many dog trainers, as they could, throw out facts all day, but you put a dog in front of them and they're like, oh my gosh, I don't know what to do with this. Or they could, fake it potentially really well for a day or two, and then you're not seeing the results you want. Because it's really two sides of training, is the knowledge and the hands-on work and being able to handle a dog, whether it's anxious or aggressive or reactive or whatever it may be. You need both sides of that.
And I think that's super important for people to understand, because as a dog trainer, you have to go in and demonstrate that you have the ability to change this dog's behavior or shape it. But then you also have to be able to transfer that knowledge somehow to the pet parent and coach them. So what I think you've done for us, you've actually graduated, I think, 5 candidates, right? You've created what I call these dog training coaches, these mentors for pet parents to learn from, because everyone needs a coach, right? Like, everyone requires a coach in life, whether you're a business person, a professional athlete, or a pet parent, right? Here's a great Chicago example. Michael Jordan was a great athlete and a great basketball player, but even Michael Jordan had a coach who helped him dribble better, play better defense, shoot a better foul shot or a jump shot. And I say the trainers that you taught are kind of like, whoever coached Michael Jordan. So I say we have a bunch of Michael Jordan trainers out there now working for our pet parents quite well. So thank you for that. And now you took all of that knowledge and expertise that you had in training, and you then grew with our company into the VP of Ops role, which is a much different role.
Very different.
I think the company kind of look at you almost like a mother-like figure. And I mean that as a total compliment, by the way.
They call me Mama Liz.
They call you Mama Liz? Okay, I never heard that one. I love that they're calling you that. And I think that's not just because of the compassion and empathy that you have for them, your incredible listening skills and your ability to work with so many different types and kinds of people, right? We have all types of personalities here, but also your heartfelt, empathy and care for all the pups.
Yeah.
So if you were to define like one thing, or just maybe it's a couple things, three things, it could be one, that sets you apart as a leader in your communication with our team to make sure pet parents and their pups are cared for every day, like you're caring for Zelda, what would that be? What would that be?
I would say something I always talk to when it comes to our managers, field team, whoever it is just you need to listen.
Yeah.
And I know that's such a common theme in everything, but that's so often what we need to do to figure out what people are actually asking for or the dogs are asking for. Listening to dogs is a little bit different than listening to other humans, and that's a different skill set. But if you just listen to either of those beings, you're going to get the answers that you need, and you're going to make decisions based off of what you hear or what you see in those interactions. And then the other just really important thing that I think defines what we do every single day is you just do the right thing. You and I talk about that all the time.
We do.
I talk about that with the team all the time. You do the right thing for the dogs. What's right for the dogs is right for their humans, and you can't go wrong if you do the right thing.
I agree with that. Could not agree with that more. So let's talk a little bit about how that applies to the pet parent specifically. Like when their dog comes in, what should they expect from one of your team members, right?
Well, the easy answer is they expect that we do the right thing.
Right. No, I mean, let's more like tangible than that. Like they come in, what should they see? What should they smell? What should they hear? What should their experience be with the person who greets them? What should they see in the back with other dogs being cared for? And by the way, we don't have to go in such great detail, but, give us kind of some insight here.
They should expect that we are taking care of their dog exactly like we would take care of our own. And that's what's so important to me, to you, to our whole team, is if this were your dog, what would you want to be done in this situation? And that's what we do, because we need to know.
You're talking about personalization, really.
Yeah.
Talking about listening to the members and their pups' needs and personalizing the care.
Yeah. And I think it's even more than personalization. It's making sure that everyone is just getting exactly what they need, regardless of what it is and what that situation is.
Can you think of an example of, it could be anything from, a dog who had a specific need to a pet parent who had a kind of a weird request, maybe that was, to maybe most doggy daycares was a little out of bounds, but you're saying like, okay, like we're going to do this because this is what you think is best for your dog.
Yeah. I think what's really helpful is that we have such a variety of services that we can offer. So if someone comes in with a dog that has a big variety of needs, in general, we can help them take care of all those needs. Just the most recent one that comes to mind is I was at our South Loop location, and someone just adopted this small dog that was found on the freeway. And they named the dog Freeway, actually.
Cool.
And it was this little, I think it was a Shih Tzu, actually. And it was so matted, you couldn't even get to the dog's skin. It was so scared of everything. It had never met another dog. It was just the saddest thing. So we immediately got that dog into grooming. They had to shave it down, but that's what had to be done. And the dog just immediately felt better after that.
You can see the change physically.
Oh my gosh, you could definitely see it.
It's like relief too.
Yeah.
Matting, by the way, for all those who have dogs that are long hair, you have to always be concerned about your dog's matting. It is extremely uncomfortable for the dog to be matted.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, continue. I don't mean, just a public service announcement.
We're all learning here. And then obviously the dog was very anxious, under-socialized, and one of our trainers happened to be there. So they talked to that member about the human side of socialization and what they could do at home to make sure the dog
felt comfortable.
Yeah. Exactly. The waiting period, we want to give it at least 6 months, which a lot of people don't realize, to make sure that the dog feels comfortable in their new home and that these things really do take time. And then we also talked about eventually getting that dog into daycare so they could be around other dogs. And, in daycare, we have our small dog area and our big dog area. And that was really helpful for them to hear because the dog was obviously very afraid of big dogs. So we showed them our different areas and they were just really comforted by the fact that we do personalize it by size. So for me, that was just such a great example of this dog that had such a rough start and such a difficult life up until that point, and we were really able to help them with every aspect of that dog's well-being.
Yeah, no, that's super important. You got to make the pet parent feel comfortable. We got to make the pup feel comfortable. And I think what you saw there and what the team was executing on was really kind of just understanding the needs of both the parent and the pup, and trying to help as best they could. Not everything that we offer might have fit for the pup or for the pet parent, but we're going to do what's in the best interest of the dog. And that's really, I think, what you're communicating here today. So let's shift gears for a second here. And that's really, that's a sad story that turned into a really happy one. Let's go to kind of like a funny story now. What's the craziest thing you might have ever experienced at PUPS? It could be anything. There's nothing out of bounds here. We always want to give our listeners kind of a little bit of an inside view of what's going on, so that and I think everyone will agree how challenging it is to manage a dog daycare operation. There's a lot of moving parts, and you do it so beautifully and make it look easy from the outside in. Let's give them a story from the inside out that we can share with them.
A funny story. Is it okay if it's a little gross?
It's okay. Listen, the first podcast we did, Pablo was telling me the grossest story ever, and I'm not going to repeat it right now for you folks, but if you want to go back and check that out.
It might be the same one then.
Well, I hope, maybe, so they won't gross me out as much this time, but our listeners have heard that one. But go ahead.
It is a grooming story.
Okay.
So it honestly might be the same one.
All right, let's go.
Does it have to do with a gland?
It does.
Okay.
All right, so we'll table that one. We don't have to do that. We'll shift gears again and talk more about the enrichment program that we just did. Why did you decide to do that? That was a brilliant idea. Why did you decide? Why did you come to me one day and say, Dan, you know what? I've got this idea. I want to do all these enrichment activities. I think we can really improve the care at our clubs by doing this. What was the genesis of that?
So that really does go back to the background that I have in training and behavior. And daycare just in itself is really great for the majority of dogs, or I'll say a lot of dogs, because it gets them with other dogs, they're running around, they're moving around, and they are involved in these interactions that they wouldn't otherwise be in an environment that's safe, because we have daycare attendants at appropriate ratios that are trained on body language and handling skills. So they know if a dog is uncomfortable, anxious, or if they don't want to be in that environment in that specific moment. So daycare just in itself for most dogs is great enrichment just by being there. But it's really important to understand that added layer of what dogs need for their overall well-being. And that is multiple types of enrichment activities. So again, going back to the canine behavior side of my brain, knowing that dogs need multiple kinds of enrichment, I kind of sat down and I thought, what can we do in the confines of a dog daycare that would help those specific needs? So one of the main things that dogs love to do.
And going back to your point that every dog is different and needs different types of stimulation to be satisfied.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Some dog could sit there and chew a Kong for 2 hours and get exhausted, while another dog might look at that Kong and be like, I don't want to touch that thing. I want to run around with those other dogs in that other room.
Exactly.
Sorry to interrupt, but I just wanted to point that out. It's really, that was an important distinction for me in kind of helping you implement this program, because you said, hey, listen, we got to think about all dogs. We're almost like a one size fits all right now. And this kind of gives us a little bit of diversity in our offerings.
Yeah. And to your point, and something that I made very clear to everyone at the club level, is not all dogs will like or even care about all of these options. And that's okay. We want to make sure they like a few of them. But for example, we have dog music. And the dog music that we chose is specific to what has been scientifically proven that dogs respond to and calms them down. And that's classical, jazz, and reggae. And a lot of people think that's very funny with jazz and reggae. But I specifically chose those music genres because I know, based on my previous training and learning, that that is what dogs will respond to the best. We recently added a sniffari.
I love that. I love the sniffari, by the way.
I love it too.
It's one of the most fun activities that I've seen performed.
It's very fun. It's very fun. So we have dog safe, obviously, essential oils, and we put them around the rooms in a safe way, obviously. And then for an hour each day in the middle of their daycare day, they can walk around the room and sniff these different smells. And when dogs sniff, it releases endorphins in their brain that makes them happy. It makes them tired. And it's a different kind of tired than running around, than socializing, than licking, than playing, things like that. And for dogs that might not be the most social and they're just the ones that, sit in the corner, sit on the seesaw all day, they might walk around by themselves and sniff and have a really good time there. They might not be the most social, but they enjoy that aspect of the enrichment.
And what's happening there is that these activities are kind of playing to the dog's instincts, right? And that's something that you have to do if you're a dog daycare center, you want to be an activity center for dogs because you don't want that dog sitting on the seesaw in the corner. You want him stimulated because that's what the pet parents are sending them there for. So I think it's really important that you came up with these, activities. They add a lot of value to our pet parents and certainly our pups. Like at the end of the day, we want to return a tired, healthy, happy pup to the pet parent, no matter what service we're offering, whether it's daycare, overnights, grooming. So really, grateful to you that you did that. And check out obviously these enrichment services at any of the clubs. We typically do them for overnights, right, Liz? But we can do them for daycare as well, or we do have them for daycare as well. But we have some additional activities for overnights.
Yeah.
So talk to me about, as we grow the business here, how do we, what's your vision for like maintaining these standards of care, right? Like personalization, custom care programs for the dogs, impeccable facilities, well-trained team members. That's a lot to handle.
It is.
Yeah. How what's your vision for kind of keeping it in check and making sure that we stay focused on the dogs as we grow? How do you intend to pull that off?
Yeah.
I hope I can help in some ways, by the way.
You always do.
Thanks.
Just like previously we talked about how listening is one of the most important skills. With that comes effective communication.
Are you talking about with your team?
With everyone.
Yeah.
So with the managers, with the daycare attendants, with our member services team, I listen to them when it comes to what they need. And if they tell me, hey, I think we need to be doing this a little bit differently or that, I listen and I make changes if I'm able to, if it works for the business, if it's appropriate for the dogs.
Yep.
And
that's the North Star usually.
It always is.
Yeah.
And that again goes with doing the right thing, where if I'm told something should be different, I'm going to look into it, of course. And I think that's the most important thing for growing is just continuing to listen, because what works for one location might not work for the other. And we need to come up with a way together to make sure it works for everyone. And the guiding principle is it good for the dogs? Is it safe? Is it going to make sure that they're having a good time?
Yeah. I think, Mama Liz too also comes out. I think you're a great listener, and working with your teams, I think they feel it's collaborative. They feel invested in the process, that if they make a suggestion, they're going to be listened to, like you were just talking about, and not just listened to, but that their ideas would be implemented, especially if they're good ideas. I think that is always an important part of any organization, that leaders like yourself have these amazing listening skills and also respond with action. because I don't think we'd be where we are if you didn't take that feedback from all of your team members and say, okay, well, hey, this is good. This is maybe not such a great idea. But anything that you thought was worthwhile, you would go forward and implement. So anyone, even me, who works with you on a daily basis and has more interaction with you than I do anyone else at the company, can see that it comes across in not only your character, but obviously your professional conduct. And I appreciate that about you.
Thank you.
Wanted to let you know that.
Thank you.
So again, want to continue to kind of talk about, looking forward here a little bit. What advice would you give pet parents looking for a care provider like us? Like, what should they be concerned with, right? When they walk in the door and they see something or smell something, or hear something, what are those things that they should be concerned with? Or on the flip side, what are the things that they should say, oh, wow, that's like amazing. Like, this is exactly what I should be looking for.
Yeah. I think if you are looking for a facility to bring your dog to, the most important thing for me would be, are they asking questions about your dog?
I always say that. What the 2 words that I tell, ask questions. I mean, kind of like drill that to the team. And I'm so happy that you continue to like preach that.
Yeah.
Because if you're asking questions, you're doing what you said the team should be doing, which is listening.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt. I just, how I get about that.
I do. Because, I mean, for so many reasons, if they're not asking questions, how are they going to know what your dog needs in terms of care? What are they like? What's their personality? Are they going to go into daycare and be that dog that sits in the corner that's a little bit nervous? Are they going to be that dog that we have to keep an extra eye on because they're just running and running and running and hyping up all the other dogs?
So the first thing you said is basically a greeting and making sure that the persons that you're dealing with are asking questions.
Yes.
What's the next thing that they should be looking for or concerned about? Right.
Well,
so it's either, okay, I see that and that's good, or I see that and oh boy, that's not so good.
Well, on that same note, it's, are they listening? And are they making personalized recommendations based on your answers to their questions? Because you could be giving these amazing in-depth answers, but then if they just give you, oh, well, this is our basic package, do you want it? That's probably not great.
Right. So if they're presenters, forget about it. You're walking out. Okay. Here's our menu. Pick some. That's not the type of experience you would want for a pet parent. It certainly doesn't happen at our place. I know that.
No, definitely not. And then really, I think one of the most important things, if not the most important thing, is safety.
How would they go and assess that, really? What could they see? Just maybe a couple 3 things that they could see that they might notice in the daycare room, in the grooming area, even at reception, maybe with the way the dogs are checked in. What are the things that a pet parent would see to kind of identify to them that safety is a priority in a place?
Oh my gosh, there's so many things.
But go ahead.
I think before you even see anything,
Yeah.
a good question to always ask would be, what kind of training does your team get?
Okay.
And that's something that, again, we really do prioritize and is really important to me, you, and all of our team, is we don't just throw someone in a daycare room and say, have fun. You're in a room with a bunch of dogs. Go do what you think is the right thing to do. We make sure that they meet with trainers, with the certified behavior consultants we have on our team, the certified trainers, and with the most senior daycare attendant in that room. We teach them our safety policies, handling skills, what to look for. They work with the manager. So
if I'm a pet parent, I'm walking in and I'm seeing a well-trained staff. I'm seeing an attentive staff. I'm seeing a staff who knows how to respond if there is an issue. And I am probably seeing some level of training going on, right? Some education or coaching going on while I'm there.
Of course, definitely.
Okay.
And you're going to know that you're seeing that exact thing. Always ask to take a tour, to take a look, or webcams, or whatever it may be.
So transparency, right?
Transparency
is key.
For sure.
Yep.
And then how many people do they have compared to how many dogs? in the room, what are the daycare attendants actually doing? Are they paying attention to the dogs? Are they interacting with the dogs? If a dog is getting a little bit more riled up, what are they doing in that situation? Are they communicating with each other? Are they communicating with the dogs? How comfortable do they look in the room? There are so many aspects of safety.
What about the appearance of the facility?
Definitely appearance is important. You want to make sure.
Well, maybe not just appearance. Maybe we're talking about cleanliness.
That's where,
No.
yes,
Okay,
that's
you're
where I was
going there.
going
You're
with
going
that.
there. Okay, good.
So, when it comes to cleanliness, dogs can be very messy beings. And when it comes to, again, their overall well-being, you want to make sure that it's a clean facility, or if a dog does go potty, it's cleaned up immediately. And
why is that? Why is that important? Why? I mean, from a care standpoint, why is that important? Right? You can answer. I'm happy to give the information
Go ahead.
too. Yeah. Well, it's important, guys, because diseases are transferred a lot of times through urine and feces, and so we want to make sure that we clean up right after a dog goes. So you should see that as a pet parent. If you see a dog has defecated or urinated in the daycare room and the daycare attendants aren't cleaning up immediately after it happens, well, that's a concern to you. Mm-hmm. If you see a dirty mop bucket, right, that should be a concern to you as a pet parent. Yep. What maybe some other indicators that I might not be thinking of?
I mean, other than obviously the safety side of it, it's just your dog's overall well-being and wanting to be in a clean environment. No one, dog or human, wants to be in a dirty environment.
Well, especially humans. No human wants to have a dirty dog returned to them at the end of the day. That's for sure.
But when looking at it from the dog's perspective, which is what I and we always try to do, is dogs are very clean animals, and they don't want to be in a dirty environment either. And again, at the heart of what we do is it right for the dog? Is the dog happy? Is this good for the dog? And a clean environment is good for the dog.
Yeah, agreed. Well, to recap, we talked about listening skills. We talked about safety. We talked about environment. We talked about communication and training, obviously. And some of those kind of cross over. I want to leave our audience with two things: your most outrageous experience, at PUPS, whatever it might be. Now, it doesn't have to be dog related. It could be HR related. You deal with a lot of stuff,
I'm
right?
not going to bring up HR stuff.
Okay, not HR related. It could be. It could be most rewarding too, right?
Okay.
And then after we answer that question, I want you to think of just a few words that set PUPS apart. Like, why have you? And when you're thinking about the answer to that question, I want you to think about, why have you decided to stay all this time? Like, what is, what's resonated with you? Because there's lots of other pet care facilities out there.
There are many.
So tell us the outrageous story first.
Okay. Well, I can't go with outrageous because I feel like my job is to keep everything not outrageous. And I like to think that's why I don't have a good story.
Things still happen.
They do.
And they still are funny and amusing. If there's any amusing stories, and by the cute story is fine too. Like you told a heartfelt story before about Freeway and how mom rescued him from the freeway.
Yes.
And how he came in scared little puppy and our team was very, concerned about his well-being. And now maybe tell a story that's a very inspiring story, but maybe a funny story. Okay. How about that? Any funny stories for us?
This one might be funny.
Okay.
But it really,
we'll give the disclaimer. Everyone's got a different sense of humor.
I'm not very funny. We can say that.
Neither am I.
My husband says that all the time. He says, "You think you're really funny," but
So for two people who have no sense of humor like me and you, we're just going to go and tell this story no matter what.
Yeah, I think we're hilarious. So that's all that really
in our own
matters.
little bubble, like right now.
Exactly. For me, what I can think of so easily off the top of my head are those heartwarming stories where I get so happy when I think about it because I know that we have changed the lives of so many dogs and their parents.
Tell Britt's story. Tell Britt's story. Remember when I want you to retell that one when Britt basically had a dog that was sick, and the pet parent. Am I telling the story now?
I guess you are.
Okay, I'll tell the story.
Dan, tell us a story.
I will. All right, I'm gonna answer number one for you, and then you'll answer number two.
Perfect.
So Brittany Moore was an amazing GM that used to work for us. She was your hire, trained by you, came up through the organization ranks as an MSR/daycare attendant. So knew the field operation really, really well. But she was smart as a whip and really, really great leader. So you promoted her to Lakeview manager. Now we lost Britt because her husband had an amazing opportunity in Florida in his given profession of accounting. And so the whole family moved down to Florida. And unfortunately, we don't have a PUPS Pet Club down there. But Britt told a story about a member whose dog was staying with us who became ill. And the dog got so ill that Britt was obviously concerned about, the dog's well-being. And so, of course, she took the dog to the vet, and she had continued to communicate time and time again over the course of the dog's stay with us, how the dog was doing to the pet parent, as well as what she was doing. And the pet parent was so obviously loved his dog more than anything, like we all do. And Britt was so concerned about the dog that she said to the pet parent, "You don't have to worry about anything. I'm going to stay here with your dog no matter what, and make sure that he's okay." And to me, when she said that, that kind of embodied everything that PUPS is all about, right? That she didn't care about, whatever else she had going on that day. And in a pet care facility like ours, there's a lot, right? As you'll attest to, there's a lot of stuff. All she cared about was making sure that that dog was going to be okay, and that pet parent was reassured that she was going to be there for that dog in his absence. And when she told me that story, and I thought she had told it to you too, I totally just broke down. I started crying because, and got super emotional because it was the reason that I had started this business, right? Because of what happened to my dog, and to hear that was now carried forward by the people that we work with, I couldn't have been more proud in that moment to hear that story. And so that was for me the most, one of the most moving, and I've had a lot moving moments in my career with PUPS Pet Club. And so I miss you, Britt. Wish you well. Hope you're listening to this, and check in with us, please. We'd love to hear from you. So now we'll move on to an easier question for you to feel for us who are, maybe don't have the sense of humor, or you didn't have that in particular story. Obviously, I thought Britt had told that one to you. But why have you, you have so many opportunities, in this industry? Why have you stuck with PUPS? Why do you believe that this place is so special? What sets us apart from other places?
I think it really is just the culmination of everything that we talked about today. And it always just comes down to being listened to, just like we always listen to what the dogs are telling us, what our members are telling us, what our team is telling us. I know that if there's ever a concern or an idea or a thought that I have, or that really anyone has, and I bring it to you, everyone is going to take that seriously. And if it's a change that
I take
need
it
to make,
seriously.
yes. And if it's a change that we need to make or something we need to adjust, I feel so confident bringing that up that regardless of who brought it to me, it will happen if it needs to. And you can't say that about a lot of other companies in general. And I know for a fact that you can't say that about a lot of pet care companies. so many people get into the pet industry because it's a really big industry right now. People love their dogs. People will spend any amount of money to make sure their dogs are well cared for and taken care of and safe. And we aren't just in it to get their money. We're really in it, like the story with Britt, like the stories we keep saying, because we want to make sure that these dogs are treated like they're our own. And every day I just wake up knowing that that's something that everyone in this company cares about, and that's why we're here.
That's right. And I will leave with I'll leave you with one more story. One of your favorite MSRs, member service representatives in our company, Julian,
yes,
who works at River North, relayed a story to me about his dog and his experience working at a doggy daycare in Atlanta. And he had actually brought his dog to the doggy daycare for almost 8 years before he worked with them for the last 2 years of his dog's life. And what he said to me was, Dan, I'm so proud to work here because I know, and he was at the front desk, I know what goes on back there. And if I had a choice to bring my dog anywhere, I would bring him here, not just because I work here, but because I know how well he would be cared for. And I said, Julian, that's exactly what I'd like to hear. I hope you continue to feel that way throughout your entire career at PUPS. So I want to thank you today for sharing all of your insight about our organization and about the industry. We covered a variety of topics, including training. Definitely want to meet that dolphin trainer if she's still around.
She's around.
I would love to pick her brain.
Yeah.
She's probably a wealth of information. But anyway, I think you provided our audience with great insight into our organization and how you run things here. I think what you definitely communicated today, I think what really comes across for our audience is your character and how what a high degree of integrity you operate at, and that you're not willing to settle for anything less than the best for all the pups that we care for. And so I couldn't ask for a better partner in the business than someone like you. So I want to thank you for doing what you do day in, day out, and look forward to many years to come.
I look forward to the same thing. Thank you.
Thank you.